everybody, and welcome back to our weekly Vinland Saga video, and today we're talking all about episode 19, United Front. Before we get into it though, I do want to give a big shout out to those of you who shared last week's video over on Twitter, at Faye0011, at Nacho Gashardo, and at AlexDrift11. Thanks for sharing last week's video, you three, and if you would like to have your name shouted out in next week's Vinland Saga video, then be sure to share this video around on the internet and then tag me at JoJo Talks Too Much over on Twitter, and I will be sure to shout your name out in next week's video. So with all of those thank yous said, we're gonna go ahead and get into the video. And friends, I'm gonna be totally honest with you, there was only one thought drifting through my mind by the time the credits rolled on this week's episode, and that was just fucking A. I have no idea where to even begin. So much happened, and yeah, fucking A, man. I don't know what else to say but that. Honestly, not even sure where to begin. I suppose starting at the beginning of the episode's probably a good place to start, and again, even from the word go, the first thought was that. Just look at Thorfinn's arm. His arm looks like Harry's arm at the end of Chamber of Secrets, when his arm is made out of Play-Doh for a second because there's no bones in it. Seriously, Thorfinn got royally messed up in a way that I haven't seen this dude get messed up in a while. The battle with Thorkell is truly no joke. Thorkell's not playing for fun. He's genuinely playing for keeps. He will kill Thorfinn if he gets the chance, and not because he's bloodthirsty and angry and wants to hurt him, but because, hey man, it's a duel, and that's what happens in duels. I don't know what else you want me to say. What we'll call the aftermath of round one, though, it's like I said, it's brutal. Seeing Thorfinn all messed up, it's hard to watch because again, I care about Thorfinn. I want to see this dude get out okay, and seeing his arm totally demolished. It for a second, I was like, how is he gonna, because Askeladd says, we're gonna finish this, okay? We're gonna finish this duel. And in my head, I'm like, how? The kid is screwed, he's dead. And luckily, Thorkell gives him a moment's rest, right? He's like, okay, tell you what, I'll give you a minute's breather, and you can get patched up. We'll let Baldy over there patch you up, and he's talking about Askeladd. I don't know why they call him Baldy. It's not like he's totally bald. He still has hair. He's just balding. But I guess balding isn't quite as catchy as Baldy. But yeah, they let Askeladd patch him up. And Thorfinn just, you really feel for him. He's just totally at his wit's end. He can't do it. He knows he can't do it. But he's still gonna try anyway, because he knows that he can't let Askeladd die here, because if he dies and Askeladd dies, then everything that happened meant nothing. So he can't go out here. And when Askeladd comes to him and says hey man, don't forget why you challenged him to this duel in the first place. You want to duel with me, right? You want to kill me? Well, you can't kill me if you and I are already dead. So you're gonna have to let me help you. And that was something that I found really interesting about the episode, is that this is the first time we truly see these two work together. We've seen Thorfinn be Askeladd's puppet for the last, 19 episodes? Since he was well, maybe not 19 episodes, let's say maybe after episode 4. So the last 15 episodes we've seen Thorfinn acting as Askeladd's puppet. But here, this is the first time we truly see the pair work together, and they managed to take down the invincible Thorkell, if even only for a half second. They are truly a pair and a force to be reckoned with when they actually try to combine, when their powers combine. They are truly a sight to behold, and it's because Askeladd's 10 times more cunning than Thorfinn is. It's just a fact. And Thorfinn's much more ruthless than Askeladd is. Plus, he's younger. He's a little bit more spry, a little bit more energetic, and we've seen that through the show. We've seen these two have repeat duels and such like that, and the one area that Thorfinn does have on Askeladd is that he's much quicker, and he's got a little bit more strength. Maybe not entirely stronger than him yet, but give Thorfinn another 10 years, he could easily tank Askeladd if it wasn't for Askeladd's mind, which does give him the edge and does help him, stay on top of Thorfinn. And here, when you combine the two, you're able to actually go toe-to-toe with somebody as ruthless and as seemingly impossible to destroy as Thorkell. And Thorkell's journey has been genuinely really interesting to watch, because when you first see him, you think he's just some big dude who's, he's not quite intelligent, he's not going to have a lot of deep character moments, blah, blah, blah. Totally not the case. Thorkell is a character who has this almost sort of, like, when you dig into his character, you get this seemingly, I don't want to say melancholic, because he's not melancholic. He's an I don't want to say upbeat either. He's a crazy character. He's an odd character. He's quite similar. I've said this before, but it just bears repeating, that he's quite similar to Majima from the Yakuza series, where he is this goofy, insane character, larger than life, seemingly like unstoppable, and yet there's this air to him that when you dig down in like beneath the layers of crazy, there's this sort of sympathetic dude in there, because especially in this episode you learn that Thorkell cried when Thor's seemingly died. He had felt like that was his only friend, and that he was gone, and he'd never get to fight him like he wanted to. He wanted to beat Thor's, like he's never gonna get that chance now. So it genuinely crushed him to know that Thor's was gone. And while he may not be aware necessarily of what he felt for Thor's, I think we can all pretty much agree he felt admiration, felt a kinship with Thor's, and he hated to see it go. He even says, like, I lost a friend, when he thinks somebody's breaking into Thor's place. And seeing the flashback, now having Thorfinn be aware that he is a nephew to the Jom King, the Jom Viking King or whatever. He is in essence not only a descendant of Thorkell's friend, but actually his great nephew. They are related by blood. And not only does he find out that Thor was a Jom Viking, which he already knew, but he also found out that his mom was also connected to them. Like, she wasn't just like somebody who wooed Thor's. Like, they were an arranged marriage that just happened to work out. And it's interesting to see not only Thorfinn's reaction to this, which is pure shock, but to have this moment where Thorkell is just humbled and broken and sad throughout most of this episode. He's broken in particular is the best word. Thorkell is truly and properly broken in this week's episode, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well, both in present and in the past. Because emotionally, he's destroyed the past, and mentally and physically, he's destroyed in the present. Because that whole scene of him saying, like, what are you talking about? It felt horrid, because you've been that guy where your friend is, like, either moving away or is moving groups, and you have that, like, we've all had to say goodbye to a friend and not been willing to accept that that's what was going to happen. And the way, like, Thorkell even gets mad, he's like, no, you're not leaving. This is stupid. Like, you're not going anywhere. And Thor's easily, and I mean easily, takes down Thorkell, because he's like, listen, I just want to say goodbye, essentially. Like, he says, like, take care of yourself, and then just knocks this man out. And not only does he knock this man out, he just tanks, like, absolute unit Thor's friggin' beast, just tanks the side of Thorkell's axe. Mind you, not like the metal side. He obviously hits it off the hilt of it. He just destroys it. Which still, by the way, like, the axe part could have just flown off and hit Thor's anyway. It just goes to show what an absolute friggin' beast of a dude Thor's was. And I absolutely loved that whole scene. And it does lead nicely into the whole prospect of real warrior. We saw this last week. We're seeing it again this week. And it's, what is a real warrior? What does a real warrior mean? And I've seen very different opinions on what this means in the comments. And I don't just mean like the comments have one opinion and I have another opinion. I mean, like, the comments can't seem to agree. I don't agree. I don't even agree with myself week to week on what this means. But from what I gather, in my opinion this week, is that a real warrior, it's not so much love, it's not so much that they're fighting for love, but from what I gather and what the show is hinting, at least to me, a real warrior is one that has a purpose for fighting. Fighting for fighting's sake means jack all. It doesn't mean anything. It means jack shit. Like, fighting without purpose means nothing. So, when Thor's has a reason to fight, to stay alive, to protect his family, that made him a real warrior. A real warrior was to fight to stay alive, to protect his loved ones. And it's what Prince Canute might be willing to give to these people, since he says, like, love is, like follow me and I will give you purpose. And to believe in something, to have a purpose for fighting, that's what I think makes a real warrior. Fighting for the sake of fighting, fighting because some guy told you to, none of that is a true warrior. A true warrior fights because they have something they either want to protect or they want to believe in. And that's what I gather a real warrior is, a true warrior. And that's what these characters seem to be lacking right now. It's what Thor's had that everybody else didn't. A reason to not only fight, but to not fight. And that, my friends, leads us nicely into discussing round 2. And they do in fact fight. And it's significantly one-sided up until the end. But that's because it's all part of the plan. It's all according to Keikaku, as Askeladd tells Thorfinn, hey man, you gotta take a dive for the first, 9/10 of this fight. You have to take a dive. You have to let him think that you're broken and beaten, and that he's just gonna come and squash you like a bug, because that's the whole plan. And again, this is where the mind games come in. This is where Askeladd really shines, and that's taking his enemies apart, not physically, but with his mind. He's able to analyze somebody, see what makes them tick, and see where their weaknesses are, and he pinpoints Thorkell's weakness to being like his temple, from what I gather, that the side of his head is where he's weakest. So he gets Thorfinn to trick Thorkell, make him think that he's on the ropes, and then at the very last moment, Thorfinn is able to jump up, basically climb Thorkell, and give him like a straight up boot to the side of the head. It looked like a wrestling move, and it was dope. He just like straight up runs up and just side kicks this dude, and it is gloriously done. My man looked like Kofi Kingston, just straight up like boot to the side of the head. It was amazing. And took down the unstoppable giant. And if that was where it stood, I would have been happy with that. If they both TKO'd each other, just like that was it, just a double count out or something, I would have been okay with that. And then there would have been no winner, and they could have just both maybe walked away. But no, I mean they all do get to walk away. Don't get me wrong. But Thorfinn says, no, we all get to walk away, and I'm gonna take your damn eye. That was brutal. That was, oh my, that was intense. That was pretty brutal. It was more than I anticipated from Thorfinn. I mean, I don't know why, because Thorfinn's always been quite the angry boy, so I really should have seen that coming. But yeah, Thorfinn gouging out Thorkell's eye is intense, and now that means Thorfinn has taken 2 fingers, or 3? 2 fingers and an eye from Thorkell, and Thorkell is just probably gonna let that shit slide, which, I mean, that's that man in a nutshell, really. Well, he's not gonna let it slide necessarily, because it wasn't really up to Thorkell. For a second, they were gonna kill Askeladd and Thorfinn anyway, and that's when the prince arrives in his most princeliest he has ever been. This is, if last week did not convince you that Prince Canute has come like full circle and is now an absolute beast without being physically intimidating, his mere presence manages to sway these people. Not right away, but it does sway them. And he sways them with words and intimidation just by his sheer force of will, essentially. Prince Canute arrives on the scene. Thorkell wants no part of this, and then Prince Canute explains the situation and says, I don't care what's happening here. This is useless. You guys are fighting without purpose. This is stupid. Join me, and together we will rule the... No, he doesn't say that. But he says, essentially, like, I don't know what you guys are going to do, and I don't really care. I'm taking Thorfinn and Askeladd, and then I'm going to go to Gainsborough, and I'm going to fight King Sven, and I'm going to take him off that throne. And that had me like, yes, the prince who was promised, you know? Like, I was like, yes, good stuff. I was proud of him. And then Thorkell says no. Thorkell is like, no, I don't believe you. Many people have told me that they don't care about their lives. And then the instant I hit them, even if it's a light tap, they immediately scream and beg for their lives. And that's the same thing you're going to do. And he reels back, and he's about to hit the prince. but the prince doesn't even flinch. He just straight up takes it. He doesn't necessarily hit the prince, but he comes real close. He comes as close as he can possibly get, tries to fake him out, and the prince doesn't even flinch, doesn't even blink. And that's when Thorkell decides, and this is the part that made me go like, holy crap. And that's because Thorkell decides to join up with Prince Canute and the boys. And that was a total shock, because now, not only do we have it, okay, Askeladd's group is wiped out, right? So I was like, okay, that's it. The gang's all dead. We don't have an army anymore. Psych! We still have an army. They're not necessarily an army under Askeladd's rule anymore, but they are an army that our boys have at their disposal. And again, it's another big shock moment. Is like okay, I had my mind blown by that, and I was sitting there in shock. And then here comes Askeladd just stumbling over, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? And Askeladd goes down on one knee, and he's not about to propose, but he is about to propose an idea. And that idea is, hey, I'm the one that killed Ragnar, so here you go. Here's my sword. You can go ahead and kill me. And I was like, huh? What? After all that? But again, the man is a clever, clever fiend, and she's a tricky bastard, and it was all a ploy. And Prince Canute looks at him and says, you can mourn him by serving, like, with honor, and you can serve in his stead. And Askeladd's like, all right, I'm yours. Whatever you need me to do, I'm there. And Askeladd has his purpose. Askeladd has his reason. And this is what the dude was looking for. He was looking for the return of Artorias, right? And he thinks that maybe he may have made himself an Artorias. At least that's what I'm thinking. And that was another shock moment. We had two big shockers to end the episode, and it was just a mind-blowing episode. And by the way, if you can't tell, FTC, you hear me swearing? Are we all clear? Are we gravy? I don't like to swear. I actually purposely tried to avoid it. Not just because of advertising, but because I felt like I swore too much in my videos, so I decided to tone it back. But with this whole COPPA thing, I mean, my videos, as you guys can probably tell by the shows that I cover and the way that I cover them, my content is not really intended for anybody under the age of 13. Honestly, my content's not really intended for anybody under the age of 16, let alone 13. But yeah, if it's not obvious, I make my content for teens and adults, but I now, because of that, I feel like I can pretty much just say whatever. I think I'll maybe not drop F-bombs as frequently, because that will get me demonetized. It's a fun tightrope I walk on here. I may as well be joining Prince Canute because it's a tightrope that I may as well be in a battlefield with YouTube stuff. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I just thought somebody's probably gonna comment, oh, JoJo's swearing now. Yeah. Shit sucks, man. But forget about that because it doesn't matter. This week's episode is easily an A-rank episode. I loved it. There's a couple hiccups here and there, like animation-wise and story-wise, but like very minimal, very light. Honestly, could have given it an S, but I feel like an A is very appropriate. And on that note, everybody, that's going to wrap up today's video. But before we take off, I want to give a big shout out to the good folks over on Patreon, namely those in the Earl Grey tier: Calvin Atkinson, Crowbar of Irony, Dominic, Urza, Ginkotaku, No For Nothing, Maria Teresa, Mirth Mouser, Omner Garamond, Cell, Shadow Creative, Sipco Games, Somastan, Steven, Tristan, Verdon, and Westbourne Eastbred. A huge thank you to those of you who support the channel over on Patreon, and if you too would like to join the T Squadron, then be sure to check out that first link in the description to check out our Patreon page, see all the cool rewards you can get over there, as well as access to our Patreon exclusive Discord. Thanks once again for checking out today's video, everybody. If you enjoyed it, then you've probably been on the internet long enough to know what to do already, so I ain't gonna tell you, but I will say that it is appreciated. And if you are feeling stressed out today, then you go have yourself a warm cup of tea, and I will talk to you all again real soon.